Hello, welcome to my presentation on popular virtual and augmented reality technology and storytelling. In our earlier sessions, we spoke more theoretically about immersive storytelling. Today is a bit different because we will turn to the popular VR and AR tools of our time and see how they transform storytelling into an experience that learners can enter, interact with, and reshape through their own imagination. In this way, immersive storytelling connects timeless teaching practices with the possibilities of today's tools. Of course, I will speak not as an expert, but as a teacher who is just beginning to explore these tools with curiosity. Before we dive into some examples, here is our path. First, we will build a simple tech awareness, why it helps to know the tools that exist. Then there is a key question if we really need the tools or it is a choice guided by our story and our goals. We'll group VR and AR options and share a clear way to choose. After that, we shift into practice. My teacher's lens, a VR example under the canopy, and how to use VR in class, an AR example, Green Planet AR, and how to bring AR into everyday spaces. We will compare approaches, we will add room for teacher creativity, and importantly, we will look at the assets we already have in school. We will continue by keeping the focus on our real heroes, the children, and the stories they can live and create. To close, we will look at future directions. We will take a short glance at how immersive storytelling might keep evolving. Before we look at international storytelling projects, it helps to know the basics of technology. This doesn't mean we must become engineers, for sure, but by understanding what tools exist, even at a general level, we are better prepared to evaluate them. For teachers, this awareness is power. We don't just follow the latest trends, we decide what serves our classrooms and our children specifically. In the past few years, VR and AR technologies have developed extremely fast. What began as simple experimental headsets or phone based overlays has now become complex uh, ecosystems. Powerful devices like the Meta Quest, PlayStation VR, or AR smart glasses. This rapid change is exciting, but it can be also overwhelming, especially for the schools. So the question is, do we always need the latest tools? VR headsets transform storytelling by placing students inside the narrative, giving them a sense of empathy as if they are really in that place. AR classes or apps keep students in the real classroom but add story layers on top, making everyday places part of the narrative. But sometimes we may not have any tool at all. And finally, sometimes this is fine. The key is to evaluate, does this technology truly add to the story? Or can we reach the same purpose through simpler means? The story should always lead, and the technology should follow. To make good use of immersive storytelling, teachers need not only to know the tools, but also to categorize and evaluate them. Standalone VR headsets, like the MetaQuest, give deep immersion, even without a computer. Console based systems, such as the PlayStation VR, provide high visual quality but require more resources. Wearable AR devices like Ray-Ban or X-Real glasses bring digital layers into everyday spaces, while AR apps such as Assembler or AirTutor are simpler and offer more practical in schools. So, how do we choose? The main criterion is the learning goal, of course. If the purpose is empathy and full emotional immersion, VR is stronger. If the purpose is quick reflection and linking the stories to the everyday life, AR works better. But in every case, it is the narrative purpose, not the technology by itself. Uh, this is what should guide our choice. So the question is never simply which tool is newest, but which tool actually serves our story and our goal. Sometimes the choice might be no use of any tool at all. What matters is clarity of purpose. With this mindset, we can now look at the teacher's role. How do we filter these possibilities, especially nowadays when they are limitless? And how uh, we could adapt them to the real conditions of a classroom? As teachers, we don't need to invent everything. There are already international storytelling projects. Our role is to filter in order to each tool serve learning and not being just a spectacle. Also, we have to wonder seriously if it could really work in our classroom with only the minimum of equipment, a couple of tablets, or sometimes limited Wi Fi, short time frames. VR allows students to step inside the story, to live it from within. AR places a story on top of their own world, making it immediate and personal. Both are forms of immersive storytelling. The difference is how the narrative is experienced. Both can be valuable for learning, but the key is to choose carefully, depending on the teaching goal. Under the Canopy, created by Conservation International, tells the story of the Amazon through the eyes of those who live there. Students hear the forest, see the wildlife, and then watch as the deforestation unfolds. It is not just some data, it is a narrative, a world they can enter which builds empathy and awareness. In a real classroom, we may not have headsets for everyone, but we can show a clip on a projector. Students then can write and share their feelings on sticky notes. Then we could create a small action. First, we have to create an action plan on how we can protect forests in our own way. By this way, VR becomes a spark for dialogue and action. VR storytelling moves from emotion to concrete action. The Green Planet, which is an AR experience from BBC Studios, tells the hidden stories of plants. Using AR, students see layers of nature appear in their familiar environment. The story unfolds interactively, chapter by chapter, as they explore their own space. It links global environmental issues with their own daily spaces. In the classroom now, we can begin by showing videos or clips of the Green Planet AR experience. Then, students could take photos of their schoolyard, their street, or even some photos with the view from the classroom's windows. Using simple tools like the Canva, they add AR layers, imagining their own world with healthy plants or with pollution. This way, they are not only watching, they are creating their own environmental story. Here, storytelling becomes personal. They create the story of their own environment. VR storytelling is powerful for empathy because it places children inside an unfolding story. AR storytelling is lighter, good for reflection on everyday settings. The teacher is the bridge, choosing which form of immersive story best fits the goal. Anyway, in both cases, the teacher and his role is crucial. Teachers do not copy projects exactly. We take inspiration, we adapt them to our classrooms, and we could expand them. For example, after a VR rainforest journey, a science class might study the local trees in the schoolyard and compare them with the rainforest species. Or after exploring plants in AR, a language class could write short stories imagining those plants speaking about their lives. Or in an art class, students might illustrate what they saw in AR and turn it into a class exhibition. This is the practical horizon. How we could link the immersive story with the curriculum and with the children's own environment. This step of adaptation transforms technology into meaningful storytelling, rooted in the daily school life. But we often put our focus on what is missing. We often think about what we don't have. Few devices, limited Wi Fi, not enough time. But also, we need to notice the assets we already have. For example, a schoolyard can become a stage for AR. Children could take photos and design overlays showing how it could look greener in the future. Or a small garden can link to a VR story about rainforests, helping students compare their local plants with global ecosystems. Even a single pot of beans that are growing on a windowsill can turn into a mini storytelling project where students document its growth week by week, mixing AR photos with their own narratives. These everyday resources make immersive storytelling grounded and real, showing children that powerful stories can start right where they are. In the end, immersive storytelling is what makes VR and AR truly meaningful. The heroes are not the tools, but the children with their needs, their questions, and their dreams. Each class is unique, so we design with them in mind. Yes, there are limitations, but there are also treasures. A schoolyard, a garden, a few plants. These become opportunities, not obstacles. VR and AR could turn everyday resources into living stories. Children do not just listen to a story, they live it, they could shape it, and they could make it their own. And when learning becomes a lived story, this is when it lasts finally. And as we look into the future, immersive storytelling will keep evolving. Generative AI already gives us new ways to build whole environments and produce visuals that once took hours of work. Inclusive avatars open the stage for every child to see themselves represented, not just as participants, but as protagonists of their own story. At the same time, biometrics enter the classroom, offering opportunities for adaptive learning, but also raising deep ethical questions about privacy and responsibility. For us, as teachers, the challenge is clear to welcome these innovations with creativity, but also with care. We do not adopt every tool because it's new. We choose the ones that truly make learning deeper, more fair, and of course, more meaningful. In this way, the future is not just about technology, it is about giving our children more ways to live, shape, and share their own stories. This is the end. Thank you for watching. There are some references that are following.